Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our Tuesday afternoon Lunch with MPA webinar series featuring the finalists from the 2018 Imagination Awards. We're calling this Winning Ideas because indeed our participants had submitted and were recognized for their groundbreaking ideas. This week, we're focusing on revenue, again, as we did last week, with a special attention paid to revenue that comes from advertising, native advertising, and events. I'm Elizabeth Tide, Senior Vice President of Marketing here at MPA, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today. With me, I'm pleased to introduce you to our featured speakers, Katie Galati, who's the Director of Marketing and Special Projects at AFAR. And Katie's going to be sharing with us information on the AFAR and Nikon World in Focus project. Very, very successful. We look forward to hearing from you, Katie. Joe Lusardo will speak after Katie. Joe is the Executive Brand Director of Taste of Home. And Joe is going to be sharing with us news of the Gingerbread Boulevard, now in its multi-year expression, and that again has been a hugely successful event, and with all of the corresponding bells and whistles. Joe, welcome, and we look forward to hearing from you about Gingerbread Boulevard. Both Katie and Joe, AFAR and Taste of Home, are members of the IMAG community at MPA. The IMAG community is a community of independent publishers within the MPA membership that really focuses on the special needs and talents and opportunities for enthusiast publications. We specialize in peer-to-peer convening, where our member companies can share and learn from each other, things like this webinar and the Imagination Awards. As we have seen all of our member companies navigating the transition into a 360-degree brand, we're happy to say that the IMAG brands, including AFAR and Taste of Home, have really excelled in leveraging what their brand does mean and can mean to their audience. So what's next for these brands? Well, enter the Imagination Awards. Launched in May 2016, these awards showcase the best work being done across department. We recognize projects and teams that have really captured the essence of their brand, and they're leveraging innovative thinking and imaginative tactics to drive business. You're going to hear what's next for AFAR and Taste of Home through the programs that were nominated and recognized as finalists in this year's Imagination Awards. Just to remind you, the Imagination Awards are given in the following categories: general revenue, audience development, leadership, content, events, advertising and native revenue, and digital. It's time to start thinking of next year's Imagination Awards, so why don't you take a look at the projects on your desk today and set aside some that will be entered next year in the 2019 Imagination Awards. I'd like to now turn the microphone over to Katie Galati, and Katie's going to share with us the very successful AFAR and Nikon World in Focus program. Katie, welcome.
Thank you, guys. Super excited to present this program to you, and I'm going to share my screen really quickly. I am just getting to the beginning of the presentation. All right, I'm hoping that everybody can see this. So again, really excited, and we are super honored to be recognized for this program. It was a true partnership among us as a brand and Nikon as a brand who came together. We came together to really create something that was a little bit different in the scope of traditional media. So to give you a sense of sort of where we started, Nikon's goals really were to promote some of its new camera launches They knew that a huge market for them of avid photo enthusiasts happened to actually also be travelers, which makes a lot of sense. You organically often turn to a camera to use while you're traveling. And for them, they really wanted to demonstrate that when you actually use a DSLR camera, so you actually use a really sort of fine piece of equipment with a lot of imaging capabilities versus using your smartphone, the end result is much better. And I think a barrier, for a lot of people is that there's a perception that this equipment is very complicated or cumbersome. And so they look to us to sort of help create an immersive experience to really get cameras in hand so people could understand, they could learn, they could use the camera and see the actual difference for themselves. And of course, driving brand awareness in impressions was a big part of this as well. Like not only the tactical element of, touching and feeling and using the camera, but creating a larger conversation in a community of photographers, through demonstrated engagement across the campaign. So what that amounted to is the idea of world in focus, right? So Afar as a brand, and I'm not sure how many of you guys are familiar with Afar as a magazine brand and a travel brand, but we pride ourselves on our photography, and in fact, we are highly awarded for our feature photography, and we believe that the photography that's featured, both online and in the pages of our magazine, help inspire us to dream bigger and travel deeper, which is our brand ethos. We produced a series actually of 5 photography expeditions. So what we did is we married the idea of immersive photography with experiential travel. And we produced 5 different global trips that consumers, our audience, could actually travel with us on, that included photography professionals as well as an Afar representative, and travel deeper in a sense. So get local experiences in market all over the world, while at the same time learning how to take better photos using Nikon equipment. So actually a big key part of this was that Nikon had provided for us actual cameras and lenses and accessories to the guests, to the attendees of this trip, so that they could use it while they traveled as part of a perk of signing up for the trip, and really begin to understand. So, we felt that if, people develop relationships with products while they're on the road, while they're sort of in the middle of this, great experience, they're going to be more inclined to, pass along, to share, and ideally, down the road, even consider purchasing a piece of equipment. And a big part of this program not only obviously was the trips and putting that together and creating these itineraries and making sure that they felt on brand for Afar, but they also provided a lot of hands-on and high-touch photography instruction. But we actually used the opportunity to create an entirely new brand campaign for Nikon. So literally what we did, we built creative from the ground up. It included native content, it included sponsorships on Afar.com, it included custom brand banners that ran across Afar.com, it included print pages, strategic amplifications, social, email, and obviously then culminated with events in market. And that resulted in millions of impressions, helping deliver that brand lift. So just to kind of give you an overview and a sense of the program, obviously key to this program was the actual development of these trips and finding the right photographer mix to really help bring that to life, and I'll talk a little bit about how we did that. But then I think sort of the crux of this was really in this pre and post expedition exposure. So really, when you look at the timeline of a program, you have a big sort of lead up in marketing and announcements and engaging your community and getting them excited and wanting to book these trips and travel alongside us. And that included a whole host of content from building a custom registration site to really, capture those leads and make sure that we were, delivering on all of the information that we needed to provide, but creating content and announcements across afar.com. Again, these targeted brand banners on afar.com as well. We had a robust email strategy, which we actually found to be one of our most effective pieces of communication to our audience. Social, of course, being huge here, and print. And then post, you really had a huge wealth of social posts that resulted from these trips, which was amazing to see. And it created a really cool, almost like micro community of people who attended the trip, followed each other, follow the hashtag, share their posts, and it's still ongoing because I'm still seeing posts to this day of people, posting from their trips. And then, of course, we did a post-event content series. We had print exposure that came post-event that showcased a lot of the photos that we received. And then I'll take you through, some of the results, what we found was successful, what, we learned from this experience as well. So let me tell you a little bit about the trips, because obviously this is the main crux of this program, which was creating these trips and getting products into the hands of these core consumers. So the trips actually ran this year from January to March of 2018. So early in the year, we ran 5 trips over the course of 3 months. So that really, because this is the first year we're doing it, we tested it. We wanted to see, how our audience would react, and this sort of time period worked. We actually launched promotion for this around the beginning of October. So we didn't have a huge lead time leading up into when the first trip happened, but again, we really used those first 3 or 4 months to pump out content and promotion around it, just to give you a sense of timeline. The number of attendees varied from about 10 to 18 per trip. That didn't include staffing or photographers. It was purely attendees, and again, that varied by destination and length of the trip. The destinations we went to, so we actually curated multi-day itineraries in these 5 markets, which really are basically on 5 different continents all over the world, Vietnam, Morocco, Italy, Utah, and Peru, and that was a massive undertaking in terms of planning the itineraries and making sure we had the right, planning a trip for yourself is one thing, but planning a trip when you need to capture key photography moments during the day is certainly a whole other thing. So we made sure that we worked with local resources to put those trips together. And then the variety of equipment included the Nikon D7600, the D850, the D5600. So if you're familiar with camera equipment, this is a broad range of equipment from more of a simple point and shoot, which is the D5600, all the way up to their newest model, which is, is a little complicated, if you will, but it's really one of the hottest items in the market, the D850. So people were very excited to learn that was one of the models available for them to be able to try and test. And then we had a variety of lenses, so everything from macro to micro lenses, accessories like speed lights and flashes and all of that we had with us. And so a big part of this trip too, or this program too, was really thinking about who we were going to have lead these trips. So we knew that we needed 2 photographers because of the size of the group to make sure that the instruction time was meaningful and that there was a smaller ratio of students to professionals. So what we did is we actually looked at Nikon ambassadors, so people who were very aligned with the Nikon brand, who represent them and shoot with them and do projects for them. And we also looked at our own ambassadors. So far, works with a roster of ambassadors and photographers that create content for us, both in the magazine editorially and also for special projects. And what we did is we used both of these. For us, the Nikon photographers offered a lot of really technical and knowledgeable support about products and photography. And the Afar ambassadors really specialized in the creative aspect and editorial shooting and, really shooting in a way that sort of matches our brand aesthetic. So the marriage of those two is actually really, really perfect and symbiotic for these strips. Also, the Afar ambassadors all tended to have a much higher social following, which really helped in the amplification of this. So what we did, just so to put this together, is we kind of did, mini interviews with each to judge personality and shooting style. And then we had calls to have these photographers who actually hadn't met before these trips or worked together before these trips meet. So you can see here, this is on the left we have the Nikon, on the right we have the Afar, and those were the pairings that we had made based on a variety of factors. And what we found is in this prep time, in this call time, in this, making sure that, goals and voice and teaching styles were aligned, we had a really great matchup of professionals. And I think guest feedback after the event showed that they really appreciated this relationship and the difference between both photographers. So that was really great. But just to sort of show you, I have a lot of visuals here because I think that visuals tell the story the most and the best. We built a custom registration page that was Nikon branded that featured a variety and a whole host of information and how to book and FAQs and principal itineraries and benefits of the trip, dates, all of that. And so that was a very involved process that included multiple departments at Afar, including marketing, obviously being one of them, events, the editorial team, the creative content team, so the dev team, to get that live. So, that was a true sort of all hands on deck type of development. But what it did is it created a really visual, really user-friendly piece that was mobile optimized in order for people to book. And that we found was very, very important for making sure that the user experience part of this was on point, because we wanted that high conversion rate. Then we sort of moved into content. So we worked with our editorial team to develop sort of an announcement article that lived actually in the homepage of Afar.com, and it also lived within our photography channel. Just contextual alignment there, but making sure, like from an editorial perspective, that we were really helping to amp up and sell these strips. We created here, and you can sort of see it right, a whole host. We created actually 6 different sets of banners. Each was tailored to the destination that it was representing, and one was just a general, so it was 5 destination specific and 1 sort of general world in focus announcement. And those ran again across strategic pages on Afar.com. So we actually have, as a travel brand, we have different travel guides around the globe. And each of those travel guides is a comprehensive way for our users to sort of get a little more information about a specific destination or place. So, for example, Italy here for our Italian trip, we actually did 100% share of voice around all of the Italian travel guides. So that included any of the cities we were visiting, and it also included just the general country guide. And we did that actually for all of the trips. So we included specific contextually aligned creative and higher impact positions on these travel guides, as well as sort of our inspiration channels, which are a little bit more passion point and interest based. So we have a travel photography channel, which again, Nikon owned with 100% share voice. We also had an epic trip, outdoor adventure. So those kinds of things that really spoke to the nature of these trips, we targeted with this custom brand campaign. And just so, again, to reiterate, Afar actually created all of this creative for the branding, the World in Focus brand specifically, that had Nikon branding and drove directly to registration. That, of course, included multiple teams, in terms of the creative team, the dev team, the ad ops team here, to make sure that all of these contextually aligned banners were, of course, in the right spot and looking to the right places. Again, in pre-expedition promotion, we created a huge conversation on social. So we primarily used Instagram and Facebook and amplified those posts to really reach a targeted photography enthusiast group of people. But we also created an email marketing campaign, and we found this actually probably not surprising, but to be our most effective traffic driver, because you have that opportunity to be a little more visual, to sell these trips, to call out key points of interest and key itinerary highlights. And as you can see here, each of these, this first one to the left is very general, kind of announcing all the trips, but then we got very specific with the actual destinations, calling out itinerary highlights. And I will say that this was, again, another very big cross-department collaboration. In this time, we actually employed the help of the photo research group, because one of the things that Nikon asked us and was very adamant about was that all of the imagery that we featured needed to be shot on a Nikon camera in order to properly represent the brand. So we had a whole host of image researching that we needed to do to ensure that we met those requirements, and we did, and we found a variety of avenues, both from our own editorial stock to researching on sort of photo websites and the like. So, and using actually some of the imagery from our ambassadors who were also participating in the program, who were Nikon shooters. So again, a big undertaking is photo research, but one that created a very visual, compelling, and consistent story. Again, as I mentioned, we also used our photographers as a promotional vehicle. So each of them posted on Instagram and on Facebook and on their respective websites that they had them to promote the trips, promote their own involvement in the trips, and help us drive signups. And we found that this actually was a very successful driver of signups as well, because a lot of these photographers have significant followings who really relish the opportunity to shoot and learn from these guys. And because of this, we drove quite a few signups and interest and sort of sharing and a renewed sort of conversation around trips. And finally, we created very visual, very bold, creative imprint that ran across 3 different issues in a far leading up to the trip. So again, a general announcement, a little more specific with itineraries, and our last one went on sale right before the Peru trip, so we focused heavily on Peru. But again, just custom created by Afar, and for this program and this branding. So I think one of the most exciting things, and probably not surprising things, that we saw come out of these trips. So on each trip, considering the photographers, the staff, the attendees, we had this unbelievable sort of micro community of folks who were on these trips and shared the hashtag, which was hashtag Afar Nikon World in Focus. And you can see we have a little over 900, I think, posts on Instagram, but it created this unbelievable photo library. So if you scroll through that hashtag, you can see the amazing and incredible works that these are actually a sample of photographs that aren't professional photographs. These are photographs taken by the trip attendees and shared by them. And it's really cool to see, especially as the trips progressed, sort of where the photos started and sort of where they ended up towards the end as they started to delve deep into lighting techniques and editing and all of that. So really, really fun community here of people who follow each other, who like each other's posts, who share each other's posts, who comment on each other's posts. It's been really rewarding to see that. But of course, what does that mean for Afar and for Nikon? Well, it means that there's a wealth of content to be shared. And how we did that and what we did is we actually took a look, and on Afar's end, we took a look at some of our favorite posts, and we reuse them as social content, posting attendee photos after the trips and creating a wealth of really exciting content for our Instagram page that looks so beautiful, as you can see. This is just a little snippet of that. And Nikon actually did some of that cross-promotion as well, which was awesome. And we also did beautiful visual photography recap articles on afar.com. So one of the benefits that we always touted to our attendees was that, our editors would be selecting some of their favorite photos from the trips that were posted on Instagram and use them in content roundups on afar.com. And we did just that, and these are a couple examples here. But again, a really great promotional driver, because once people saw that they were featured, they shared the article with their community, their friends, their family. I mean, it was like the viral effect of that was really, really awesome to see. And then, of course, we did print. So we had a recap that was part of the brand campaign that, again, highlighted some of these amazing photos that were taken. And we touted, to go look at the hashtag and see that wealth of content. And then actually, most recently, we had an editorial roundup. One of our editors actually went on the Peru trip, which was really cool. And she learned and took photos alongside the guests. And that ended up in a roundup in our September, October issue. So again, the editorial support and coverage of Nikon was really, really symbiotic there. But, in terms of the results and the learning, so, we had some really fantastic results. This is the first year that we came together to do a partnership like this. And, Afar, as a brand, has had so much experience producing events in foreign destinations. It's a big part of our brand DNA. In fact, when our brand was launched almost 10 years ago, one of the first, pillars of our brand was Afar Experiences, which is curated multi-day trips and itineraries that you can travel alongside Afar staff. So that was not new to our brand DNA, but what was new to our brand DNA was including an element of photography in that and tailoring a trip specifically around a passion point. So for us, we set a benchmark, and we actually exceeded our trip benchmark by about 36% for attendance, which was fantastic for our first year. We were really, really proud of that, and the kinds of people that we attracted on these trips was really varied. I mean, we had people ranging in ages from 25 to about 75. We also saw that there was a prevalence of solo female travelers, which was exciting because, female photographers or aspiring photographers is a huge sort of market gap for Nikon. And so we were reaching an entirely new consumer set. We actually exceeded the consignment rate benchmark by about 15%. So that was great, meaning that, more people than we had originally sought out to give cameras to asked for them and actually use them on the trip. In fact, one of our trips had about 100% rate of use for Nikon cameras, which was just phenomenal. And we were really happy to see that people embraced and were really curious about the product, which is a huge goal for us. And I think most exciting is that we had an 80% consumer satisfaction rate. So, again, very, very thrilled to be able to deliver high-touch, high-quality events that people felt really good about. In terms of our media campaign, so we actually exceeded our impression delivery, which was great, and that was in large part to the wide sort of range and sharing of social posts that helped us really get beyond sort of what we had set out to deliver. We had above benchmark click-through rates. Actually, we had 3 times the site benchmark for click-through on the banners that surrounded the photography channel, which showed that our approach and our strategy of these contextually relevant creatives worked, because people were more apt to find out more about traveling with Afar and Nikon when they were already interested in specific topics or destinations. So that was really great to see. And then our sponsored content benchmark really, for the amount of time people spent on the custom content, so that included the launch articles, that included the photo roundup. So people were spending a significant amount of time reading those and reacting to those. So again, we saw, an over 4 times the benchmark in the time spent on those particular content pieces. We had a few very key learnings here. I think One of them being that when you embark on a project like this, it's very helpful to be able to give different teams their assigned role, because there are so many arms and legs to this program and so many cross-departmental teams that have to touch any part of a project like this, whether it be in marketing or in sales or in events or in dev or in edit or in the social or in the email marketing team or, in ad ops. You want to make sure that everybody's roles are really clearly defined and aligned, because the moment somebody questions what they're supposed to be doing, you have sort of a break in the communication. So again, we were able to sort of seamlessly organize this across multiple departments and multiple cities, since the FAR is based really in New York and San Francisco, in order to make that happen. So having a strong project lead and clearly defined roles is very key in moving a program of this scale forward. I think for us, we would have loved, and we think internally that if we had more lead time to market these trips, minimum sort of 5 months, we'd like to do that and have that so we can really effectively tailor and optimize the promotion plan. It worked obviously really well the first time around, but with a little more time and a little more data, we know that we can make it even stronger. And I think that one of the other big learnings is that we would really love and want in the future to make more pre-trip content versus post-trip content. So if you see, we actually heavied up on the post-trip content, thinking that in the consumer's mind, they would be more excited about being featured after the fact. And that was true, they definitely were. But we feel that we would have a better success rate of really helping people understand what the trips are about and the kinds of experiences you can have with a lot of storytelling content, both on afar.com, so articles, in print, and also in email and social, to really sort of build up the story and the message behind the trips versus, having a lot of content on the back end, which is awesome for branding, but not an effective driver to drive more signups for trips, because most of those articles were published obviously after the fact. And then I think another learning for us would be we would want to include a little bit more of a formal social sharing incentive. So we obviously got 900 posts, which was awesome, and we have a wealth of content. But I think that if you have a clearly defined incentive where there's something you could win, like a camera or whatever after the trip, I think that would actually create a stronger incentive to share more on social. So that would be some of the learnings we had there, and some of the things we'd like to incorporate for the next time we do this. But I think probably, one of the most exciting things and really most compelling things about this entire partnership was the content that we produced after the fact that, now Afar and Nikon has built in the rights to use this original global photography from our photography professionals. And this is just a sample of some of the work that was captured as we went across the world. But as you can see, it's dynamic, it's beautiful, it's breathtaking, and we're really, really proud of that. And I know Nikon is thrilled about that too. So again, a really big partnership, a complex program, but one that we're very proud of because it delivered tangible experiences and really fulfilling way for people to learn, grow as photographers, hone their skills, travel, get a different perspective of the destination. And we married something that our brand is very, very passionate about, which is the photography, but also, understanding local culture in a different way. So again, thank you guys. And that's World in Focus in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have. And I'm here if there's anything that you guys want to ask me about this program.
Thank you, Katie. Afar is really masterful at storytelling through words, pictures, and experiences. So that was really, really great. We're going to turn the microphone over to Joe, and I think that Katie and Joe can take questions at the end of this webinar. I'm going to remind all of our attendees to use the question box on the right side of your screen to ask either Katie or Joe Lusardo questions. Joe is going to speak to us now about another great program, also brilliant storytelling. Joe Lusardo, please share with us your screen and what we need to know about Gingerbread Boulevard. Welcome.
Great, thank you. So my screen should be up, and hey everybody. First of all, great job, Katie. That was a very cool program. So I am excited to talk about our program. So welcome everybody to Gingerbread Boulevard. This is one of our biggest for Taste of Home, if not our biggest programs of the year. In kind of the most literal sense, I suppose, it is a life-size gingerbread house that we build in Madison Square Park, right here in New York City every year. But it really is so much more than that, and it's about holidays and holiday traditions and bringing families together around the holidays, and creating content that lives well beyond the event and across all of our platforms. So just to kind of get us started, Folgers has been a partner now since 2014. So for the past 3 years, I'm mostly going to talk about the 2017 program, but I will give some highlights and kind of evolutions to previous years and kind of what's changed and how we continue to keep the program fresh and exciting. So as far as program objectives, the first objective of Folgers is to really create maximum impact and brand engagement around the holidays. That timing, December has always been a key time for them. I'm sure many of you can recall several commercials throughout the years of Folgers, some of them being kind of iconic around the holidays. So they continue to put emphasis on that timing. And because though consumers are very active around the holidays, it's certainly a very crowded space. So they really want to create as much impact as they can with consumers to keep their brand top of mind. And then the second objective is to bring to life Folgers messaging through innovative marketing. So every year, so as I mentioned, this is their 2017 was their third year working with us. Their messaging for each holiday campaign tends to change year to year. So this past year, it was share a coffee, share a memory. So we really kind of took that phrasing and the meaning behind it and spent a lot of time in thinking creatively how we could bring that to life. And because we do this program now with them for a few years, it's really about each year presenting innovation. The sort of base of the program as far as building a life-size gingerbread house is kind of the core of the program and what makes it special and what we know consumers look forward to, but how we execute on that changes every year. And we've done various sort of executions using different kinds of technologies, some of which I'll talk about in a few, to really kind of make sure that we're always innovating, one, for Taste of Home and the consumer experience, but certainly also for Folgers as well. And then with that also, as far as the event, also creating, beyond the event, digital and custom content executions that bring to life this program in new ways as well. So it is an event-led program, but it's certainly something that we bring to life across Taste of Home and our assets. So moving on. So now is where I will get into some of the program details and really talk about the event. Just again, to give you guys some history of the program, we started this actually back in 2013, or I'm sorry, 2014 was our first year. Folgers was not a part of it that year and then came in 2015. But each year, again, as I mentioned, we do everything that we can to keep the program fresh and exciting. And for the first 2 years, we actually started off with small houses that you could walk around the boulevard, but they were not big enough to go inside. And then after 1 year of that, we partnered with Shazam through their visual recognition technology and actually made the gingerbread houses Shazamable. So you could hold your phone over each of the 4 houses and have a mobile experience where you were able to do a 360-degree tour of each house on your phone. So that was kind of step one into bringing people kind of into the houses. And then we thought it was time to actually create a house that was big enough to go inside, which we did for the first time in 2016. We created interactive walls inside the house so you could go up to the windows that make gingerbread men move around and have different activations where where especially for children, people were coming a part of the house. But then for this past year, which is what I'm going to focus on now, we wanted to take that further and really kind of tell a story within the house, which was kind of the first time we were doing that. So the goal was to create a fully immersive storytelling experience where visitors went on a sight, sound, and motion journey through Gingerbread Boulevard. So what that means is that we use the windows, and if you look at the top left, you'll see one of the windows. We had 3 windows in the house, so one big one on one side and then 2 smaller ones on the other side, and we actually told a story through those windows. So we created the house where people were actually coming in and looking out on this Candyland kind of universe to give sort of, a whole new dimension. So you were looking at the house from the outside, then you were actually in the house, and then from inside the house, you were looking out to kind of this whole new Gingerbread Boulevard world. And as soon as you enter the house, you meet the gingerbread man who actually lives there, and a fun little story unfolds where he is trying to finish decorating his Christmas tree, which you can kind of see in that upper left-hand corner. A sort of candy storm comes and blows his star away that he was trying to put on top, and then he meets the snowman who's in the bottom right, who helps him find the star and ultimately get it back on the tree. So it was about a 2-minute story, but it was all through synchronized video. So we actually had people, so you had to follow the gingerbread man around the house through each window. We used different kind of effects and sound and wind machines to create the effect of the candy storm. So we were very much trying to create kind of a 4D experience for visitors of the house. And then in that upper right, so for Folgers, the way that we integrated them with their Share a Coffee, Share a Memory messaging is the 2 key characters of sort of the piece and the experience are the snowman and the gingerbread man. So you can see them in that top right photo, cheersing with their Folgers mugs, with the Share a Coffee, Share a Memory branding. So that was kind of the Folgers wall that people walked past. Right to the right of that is the exit door. So after the experience ended, it kind of all wrapped up into that Folgers messaging and connecting them with the characters of the house, which the Folgers and JMS Smuckers team really liked and felt that really kind of branded them in a really special way that, just again was tapping into kind of the holiday tradition, family memory kind of elements of the program and what the Gingerbread House is intended to do. And then, so moving on, so then the other key piece of the program is obviously for everyone in New York City, and what's great about New York City in the holidays is it's not just New Yorkers, but it's people from all over the country coming to visit. So being right in Madison Square Park, we are able to touch and connect with so many people, but certainly we want to bring Gingerbread Boulevard to life to all of our fans across the country. So this was a high-impact ad unit that we created to really allow Taste of Home fans across the country on tasteofhome.com to create their own piece of Gingerbread Boulevard. So this is a screenshot of the unit. It's kind of finished here, but the way that the unit starts off is that the house, the gingerbread house on the right, is completely bare. It's just the flat front of the house. And then you get to choose, there's 3 options for the roof, window, and door, and you get to mix and match and create your own house. And we had a lot of fun working with our test kitchen, kind of coming up with all these ideas for the roofs and windows and doors. And it was great to see the different creations that consumers would make. And then they also got to share it on their social platforms, and it kind of aligned nicely again with the Share a Coffee, Share a Memory messaging from Folgers. And then another piece of it, again, to really kind of bring Gingerbread Boulevard into homes across the country, was we conducted a Facebook Live right from Gingerbread Boulevard. So we had, on the left is Sarah Farmer, who heads up our test kitchen out in Milwaukee. And then on the right is Beth Tomkew, who's the editor-in-chief, chief content officer of Taste of Home. So we had them come out and host a Facebook Live where they actually showed people, and you can kind of see it right in the front and the middle, how to make a miniature version of the larger house for themselves and their families at home. And what's great about that is people got to ask questions and connect directly with our experts. And because, for anyone who doesn't know, the way that Taste of Home is structured, all of our recipes come from real home cooks and then tested in our test kitchen, whether they're published in the magazine or on the website. So we really have a very kind of core UGC model for our content. So any opportunity they have to connect with our test kitchen and ask questions and share their own ideas is something that they love. So that was a great opportunity to, again, bring the Gingerbread Boulevard experience to people across the country, not just those who were there in New York City. And then, so how it all happens. So this is truly a cross-department, cross-team, cross-platform operation. Again, probably more than any other program that we do. And that certainly includes internal groups and departments, but external as well, working with the New York City Parks Department. But just, touching on internal a bit, obviously this is a big initiative for our sales and marketing team. So there are several of us who worked on this for several months, but we get great support from Edit in helping us craft the ideas and design the house and bring the whole experience to life. Consumer marketing is also pivotal because we are right in the middle of Madison Square Park. There's obviously a lot of built-in foot traffic, which is certainly an advantage of this program. But that said, we certainly want to make sure that we're sharing and alerting all of our consumers across our platforms about the program. So we work closely with the consumer marketing team to make sure our email messaging is spot on and that we're doing a lot on social to support the program. And then PR, this is a huge PR initiative for us. We've had a lot of success, which I'll speak a little bit more on in a moment. But we really, over each year, we get more and more press, and it's both local press, national press. It's just a great sort of larger-than-life holiday experience that the press loves to cover. So that is obviously great for Taste of Home, and again, it just continues to get the messaging out, but it's also something that Folgers really love as it, further connects them to the holidays during that time. And then as far as external, we do work very closely with the Madison Square Park Conservancy and the New York City Parks Department on making sure, obviously, they have guidelines and parameters in place in how brands can work with them, and we want to make sure that we're providing content and programming that works well for their initiative. So we launch Gingerbread Boulevard every year at their tree lighting events. And they actually have the oldest tree lighting in New York, older than Rock Center or anything else. So it's been a very long-running program. It's about a 2-3 hour event. They have different entertainment and music and holiday programming. And so we debut Gingerbread Boulevard at the tree lighting. So it really fits nicely with their holiday programming. And so we work closely with them to make sure that we vet all the ideas and they think it's something that the people who come to the park are going to be really excited about. And then moving on, so just a couple of quick highlights as far as the results. We love to talk about the number of visitors. We get over 300,000 people in just 2 weeks, which is really, for an event, a huge number. A lot of that, of course, is driven by being in such a public space right in the middle of New York City. But we certainly, the press and all of the promotion that we do as well helps drive a lot of people there. But it's really amazing to see thousands and thousands of people there every day. We have had, for the past couple of years, lines that sometimes are incredibly long, and we do our best to move people through for people waiting to go inside and check out the house. So it's really, the exposure is just fantastic. And then related exposure, again, the press has just been so fantastic. So last year we had over 100 million press impressions. And again, that's been a mix of both New York City local press, such as Time Out New York, that has always covered it, but national as well. Good Morning America has done a lot of different coverage and captured video and HuffPo and Daily News. And again, it's just been a mix of really great press coverage that we are super excited about. And, and again, for Folgers, what this does, it really just cements their place as, kind of the coffee that you associate with during the holidays when you are with your friends and family, when you're thinking about what holiday traditions you're going to do, and when you're making new memories. And that's really what they want to align with, and that's what this program is about. It's really just connecting them with that messaging and anchoring them in that kind of warm, fuzzy spot within kind of families across the country and how they celebrate those holidays. So that, in a nutshell, is the program. And so I think we're ready for the Q&A portion. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Joe. That's a great program. Makes me almost long for Christmas. Month. I think we have some questions. Katie and Joe, can you see the questions on your screen?
I see two, yeah.
Okay,
I do not. Let's see.
Maybe expand your question box.
Yep, I do. Got it.
Okay. All right. So it looks like one of them is for both of you. So maybe Katie, do you want to go first?
Sure. So the question looks like it's, how do each of you set expectations and budgets with sponsors? So I can definitely, so I actually think setting expectations is probably one of the most important things you can do before you get a program started. I think that you can do all the work in the world and create the best program that you think is the most successful, but if you didn't deliver what the client wanted, ultimately, in their eyes, it's not a success, right? So setting those expectations is paramount. And we actually won't even get a project started until we do that. And I think the best way to level set expectations is to have conversations. First of all, honest conversations about what the goals are, and then looking at what you can deliver. I think that sometimes, we all as marketers and, obviously being beholden to clients, want to always say yes to everything all of the time. And sometimes it's not smart or strategic to do that. So you have to be able to have honest conversations up front and level set about what it is that you can realistically deliver and also report on. So I think that, it all boils down to open and transparent communication and relationships with your clients in order to be able to have those kinds of conversations and be realistic about what it is that you can deliver. In our case, because we're a little bit more of a niche publication, scale and mass reach is not where we excel, but we do excel in the areas of engagement and the quality of the work we do. And so, that's sort of where we can look at the numbers and look at what the goals are and say, okay, here's what we know we can deliver against this program. And in the case of World in Focus, the expectation was really for camera trial. I think that was really the highest, and obviously awareness building, but the highest level of, I guess what the client was measuring success on was attendance, as well as the number of people who can find the camera, followed by what was the engagement and awareness built through the program. So we knew that because those were three goals of theirs, we outlined to them the ways in which we believe that we could meet all of those objectives realistically. And so we had agreed upon KPIs before we even set out to do this program. And I think everybody needs to do that before you embark on a program, especially one of a big scale. And budget, budget is a whole other story. A lot of times, obviously there's a program commitment, right, that comes with sponsor budgets, and a lot of times that's dictated by the sponsor. So you kind of have to follow their lead on, what they have available at their discretion to commit to a program and a partnership. And I also think, again, communication is key. If there's things up front, though, not obviously if you've already agreed to a program and you come back to it, but if there's elements or incremental opportunities where you say, well, they have this, but they're asking for that, but in order to really achieve that, we're going to need to ask for a little bit more. Not being afraid to have that conversation and not say yes to doing something that you know is ultimately not going to be profitable for you as a brand. So again, it all boils down to transparency and communication. But I think budget-wise, just internally, you got to do a hard look at every single program or idea you pitch and make sure that it's realistic and it's not, not gonna impede on your brand's profitability. That's a really important thing to do, and that's, done really by marketing, led by marketing and sales in our case. And we take a look at every single program we do to make sure that it's viable and profitable.
Thank you, Katie. Joe, how would
Sure.
you answer that?
So I would honestly very much agree with everything Katie said. I think setting expectations is super important. I'll just say for this program in particular, what's been great is now that Folgers has been a multi-year partner of ours, that has allowed the relationship to evolve and allow for more flexibility. So at the beginning, while setting expectations was so crucial, now that we've built up kind of trust around this program and they are really excited to see what ideas we have a little bit more flexibility to kind of evolve things as we go, and of course, certainly keeping them in the loop. But, if we are a few weeks in and we want to, change course a little bit, we keep, communication is key, but we've been able to kind of, veer perhaps like a tiny bit off course and just kind of evolve the program because we have, they've been so excited about each year that again, just, having that multi-year relationship allows for a bit more flexibility, I would say. Should I go ahead and answer that second question?
Yes, please.
So that question is, did you build the interactive gingerbread house yourself or did you use a vendor? So we, really try as much as we can to use kind of all our internal talent, our art directors and editors and marketing teams, but it's just, I think everybody would love to spend their days actually building a life-size gingerbread house. We do need some help. So we design it ourselves, but we do have some vendors who help with the fabrication. And so we have one vendor who handles that piece of it and kind of takes our designs and really brings them to life. They're based out in Brooklyn. And then we have another vendor who helps us with all of the park logistics because there are a lot of them. And so working with them has been great. And they kind of specialize actually in public and park related events in the city. So they know a lot of the different parameters and guidelines that you have to stick to. So yes, there are a couple of outside vendors who, and again, we've been working with a lot of the same people since the beginning who help us make this all happen.
That's great. Katie and Joe, I want to thank you for sharing these programs, which not only reflect your brands, they're innovative, they're engaging, and most importantly, they yielded results, measurable results over the course of multiple years. So cheers to both of you and the teams you represent. That's it for today, everyone. I want to thank Katie and Joe again for participating. See you next week at our digital webinar next Tuesday, and I look forward to chatting with you then. Have a good week. Thank you.
Thanks,
everybody. Bye-bye.